Be prepared is a simple two-word motto that the Boy Scouts have used for over 100 years, and it really does apply to adult life, and it certainly applies to being a pilot. This may be hard to believe, but many years ago, far, far away from here, I was a Boy Scout. And I don't mean like I was a real tidy rule follower kind of a kid. I mean, I was an actual Boy Scout, uniform and a sash with patches and a little kerchief and the whole deal. It was actually pretty great. We were in a troop 69, East Hartford, Connecticut. It was pretty amazing. We got to go on some fantastic camping trips, and by fantastic camping trips, I mean things that would stretch credulity today. Our adult leadership, great guys. I specifically remember Mr. Shields and Mr. Bartlett. Mr. Shields was in the Battle of the Bulge, so this was kind of like the band of brothers guys were leading this troop. We get to go on camping trips that really stretch the bounds of, is that okay? Give you an example. We once went and did the Allagash River in canoes. I don't know, maybe 10 kids, 12 kids. I can't remember the specific number or the specific names, but it was a great trip. And the big thing about the Allagash River is you put in and you come out of the river 7 days later, 9 days later, 100 miles away. And through that entire time, we had two adults and virtually no adult supervision. This was the beauty of being a boomer. We were kind of on our own, and it didn't matter if you were at home in the neighborhood or if you were out in the middle of the Maine woods. You were literally on your own. Give you an example. One of the things we had to do was clean up the campsite. So one canoe of kids, two boys, would be assigned to clean up the campsite after everybody else had departed for the morning. And one morning I was part of that crew, and my job was with my buddy was to clean up the campsite, make sure the fire is out, there's no trash or anything like that. Anything that we need to take out, we load into our canoe and we go. But we were creative. Incidentally, don't you think this would be an ideal time to click the like button, maybe subscribe to the channel, and prepare to leave a comment, a really insightful, pithy comment, letting us know what you think of this episode and maybe even of us individually. Just food for thought. So we knew we were a good hour behind our troop mates who had left already, and there was a little bit of a breeze that morning. So with a few sticks and a little bit of twine to lash things together and a sheet of polyethylene plastic that we used under the tents to keep moisture from coming up and getting us wet, we fashioned a sail. And we jumped into our canoe and just lazed along and cruised using the sail we had available to us with just basically MacGyver kind of spare parts we found around the campsite. And we eventually cruised right past our troop mates and made it to the lunch spot before anybody else, even though we left way after everybody else had already departed. The theory behind this really does go right to the motto of the Boy Scouts: be prepared. And we learned that as kids in a very real way because we were out there. I mean, we were out there. If you dumped the canoe and lost all your food, it was going to be a few days before you got to a 7-Eleven. So you had to find a way to make do on your own. Be prepared was a big deal that really made sense to us. Now, let me tie this into the aviation community by telling you another story. Several years ago, I stopped down to my local airport. Didn't really have anything to do. I just liked going there, sit on the porch in the shade, and enjoy watching the takeoffs and landings. And there was a fella there, a few years older than me, and we picked up a conversation because we're both just sitting there. The difference was I was enjoying my day and he was steaming mad. I mean, really upset. I'm in Central Florida. He had made an appointment with a designated pilot examiner in South Florida to get his instrument rating. A big deal. A lot of private pilots do go on and get their instrument rating. It does make you a better pilot. It can help you with all sorts of things should the weather turn bad. Even if it's just a thin layer, I'm on top and I want to get down below, no big deal. Instead of staying on the porch, I could go flying because I have an instrument rating. The challenge for this fellow was he went to his check ride and brought with him an airplane. That was it. Just an airplane. No charts, low altitude IFR charts, no approach plates, which would allow him to shoot approaches into all the airports in the area. No view limiting device, no hood, no foggles, no nothing. Just an airplane. And he was cranked that the examiner didn't complete the oral exam with him, accepted the check, and told him to come on back when he was better prepared. Remember that whole Boy Scout be prepared thing? It tells you right in the ACS, formerly the PTS, you need a view limiting device. And how are you going to shoot an approach into an airport if you don't have any information? The approach plates aren't there. This is a real thing. And it's not really about that one guy and that one poorly prepared for check ride, or the fact that he showed up with none of the equipment he was going to need. And we don't even need to talk about crew resource management or cockpit resource management, because he fell down hard on that. What we're really talking about is, how prepared are you for any flight you make anywhere, even in the local area? I know people who have taken off under marginal conditions here locally because they thought it was improving. They weren't calling 1-800 weather brief. They weren't using ForeFlight or any of the other tools that would have allowed them to get a good idea of what's going on meteorologically in the area or what is expected to happen over the next couple hours. They were simply looking up into the sky and saying, yeah, I think it's better. We can go. And they have gotten themselves into a real jam that fortunately worked out okay for them, but very well might not have, because they took off into conditions that really were marginal at best and getting worse, which all boils down to the Boy Scout motto of be prepared. Before you get to the airport, you should have a briefing. You should know what the weather circumstances are going to be, or the airspace. Is there a TFR that popped up suddenly in your neighborhood that you didn't know about? You really don't want to get into that kind of nonsense, flying into a presidential TFR with the excuse of, well, I didn't know. That's not going to work out well. Be prepared is a simple two-word motto that the Boy Scouts have used for over 100 years, and it really does apply to adult life, and it certainly applies to being a pilot. Do you have the equipment you need? What's in your flight bag? If you're using your iPad or your phone or some other device, is the battery charged? Are you in a position that you can put it someplace where it's out of the sun? Because nothing's more exciting than putting that iPad up on the glare shield and it gets heated up in the summer sun. And when you pull it down to check my speed, my course, where am I, it's dead because it overheated. Do you actually have the tools you need to successfully complete this flight safely? Or are you just, pardon the expression, winging it? Jump in, fire up, go out, and it'll probably work out okay. If you read social media and the crash reports, there are examples every week of somebody who took that exact approach and it didn't work out. If they're lucky, they walk away without injuries. Almost always, the airplane is significantly damaged, and yes, you may have insurance, but there's going to be a cost to this, reputationally, if nothing else. Let's all reflect on the Boy Scout motto, be prepared. And take that seriously, because we do have privileges and limitations that come along with our pilot certificate based on the fact that we accept the responsibility of being the pilot in command. So act like the pilot in command and do your best. Actually be prepared for the flights you're going to make. Your passengers will be very appreciative because they won't have a panic situation, and nobody likes that. And you will be better off because nobody needs all the paperwork and the extra expense and annoyance of bending an airplane, especially if you did it because you weren't prepared for the circumstances. That's my rant for today. I hope you find it helpful, and I'm not kidding. There are lessons we learn as kids. If we really take them seriously, they can make our whole lives better. And conversely, if we choose to ignore those lessons, life can be much harder than it has to be. And it's self-induced drama or trauma. We don't have to go there. We really don't. We just need to be prepared, have our tools, and if you're going on a check ride, Make sure you bring along the things you need to successfully complete the check ride, because that's a expensive and embarrassing lesson. And I often wonder, when that guy tells the story down the road to other people about how angry he is that the DPE wouldn't do the ride, how many people are being gracious and nodding and smiling, but in their head thinking, well, that's just stupid. Food for thought, don't you think?